Welcome to Industry Ignited, where we highlight leaders transforming industries with innovation, vision, and resilience. I'm your host, Dr. Leeanne Aguilar. Today's guest is Tal Maor, founder and CEO of Lighthouse Ag, based in Israel. Tal has dedicated his life to agriculture, first as a farmer and later as a global business development leader in AgTech, renewable energy, and cybersecurity. With over 2 decades of experience helping startups and corporations scale internationally, Tal brings a unique perspective that blends deep farming roots with strategic business expertise. Tal, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Leanne. Good morning. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I look forward to our conversation today. I'm excited to hear what you have to share and all of the innovation that's going on in ag tech. So you
Sure.
grew up farming and later built a global career in business development. How did those two worlds come together to shape Lighthouse Ag?
That's a good question. Actually, my career started around other industries. I started with cybersecurity technologies and then renewable energy technologies. My first degree was computer science, but I moved pretty fast to business development around digital products. When I started my career 20 some years ago, digital transformation processes around other industries, banks and other big corporations started to adopt more and more technologies. And when I first started my career in AgTech 13 years ago, obviously I started developing new technologies together with different partners. I thought that my farming experience helps to create the right product. But then recently, in the last few years, when we started to think about Lighthouse, everything became one. As my experience in the digital transformation challenges 25 years ago in other industries, together with my farming experience, helped me to understand why AgTech or agriculture technologies and farmers are not going fast enough. And adoption rate is still very low, although we have over 5,000 different technology companies in agriculture. And I think this understanding of my partners and I, that it takes more than good technologies to shape an industry and to get people to use the technologies. That's the main takeaway from my experience in other industries. So the understanding was you need to bring different technologies together. You need to understand the client concerns and the way that they are working. You need to understand how to, not just how the technology will work, how people will work with the technology in the specific industry, and then to bring different technologies together to create a solution. And I think it's what I call the golden triangle of AgTech. Understanding technologies, understanding the business side of things, and most important, understanding the farming or the farmers and how these people are working on the day-to-day basis on their daily routine, and how technologies can work for them and how they can work with technologies. And I think that's the main idea or the concept around Lighthouse Ag.
Right. Yeah, you brought up a good distinction there. It's not just how the technology works, it's how people work with the technology and how it integrates into their systems and the benefits they really bring from it and their willingness to change and grow and pivot and work with the
Exactly.
technologies. So you came in from a totally different industry, but you had experience with farming. What really inspired that focus on helping ag tech companies scale and succeed at an international level?
Well, farming is part of my life, since I was born, and I still have my own farm growing. I have my boutique winery producing wine, but I never thought on ag tech as a career. And actually, 13 years ago, 2012, I was exited a renewable energy company, became a very big company, and then I thought, okay, I can retire, enjoy life, and do something good for humanity, for my the next generation. And then one company out of Europe reached out to me and asked for help. And I asked them what they're doing, and they said that they're in AgTech. And I said, "What AgTech? What is it?" And they said, "Agriculture technologies." And we saw your background. You have, experience with farming and with technology. And so, okay, that's interesting. And I think, in the past 13 years since I started with this, I just understand more and more about how many challenges we have as a humanity and as an industry. And I think that I found my purpose in life, and my retirement probably will have to wait a few more decades.
Right.
Yeah,
So it sounds like it really found you. It sounds like, yeah, you were sought out for your specific skill set in tech and agriculture,
yeah,
and someone else identified that, and they're like, "Hey, you've got the skills that could really benefit." And then as you got into it, you found that it's something you really enjoy and you have a passion for, and like you said,
of
want
course.
to, yeah, it's
Although
created your
sometimes,
purpose.
sometimes, by the way, it's very hard. There are many difficulties in the industry, and as I said, the adoption rate is very low. But still, when you have this, and I see many people, good people that are used to work for the industry now, looking for other technology ventures outside agriculture because it's so frustrated. But I think that this combination of being a farmer, understanding technologies, and having this purpose, why do we need to change agriculture and to use more technologies? It's something that I know, it's not a question. I know that I'm in this industry for good.
Yeah. So also I know in addition to your experience in farming and business development, you also hold a law degree. Is that right? And have worked in commercial
Actually,
law?
two of them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Tell me about
I'm
that.
trying to
Like
hide it usually.
and how has your legal training influenced the way you approach business development, investment negotiations, and helping ag tech companies scale globally?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. When I accidentally had 2 degrees in law, but I don't regret that because I think it's part of who I am and how do I navigate between different things. Even in this industry, we're working a lot with startup companies, investors, and even with farming organizations. And I think understanding the legal side of things, understanding what possible, what is not. You always have in every deal you have lawyers or legal departments on the backstage. Not always your founders are understanding the process, or they know that the answer that they get from an investor, a client, or a potential partner is coming from the legal department. And being able to understand that and understand that these concerns, I think it's very important because then you can find a solution. I think that if you understand legal, you understand how to make things happen.
Yeah.
And I think I find it very very easily to understand when you get a no or a yes, whatever it is, the answer. You understand whether it's coming from a business reason or a legal reason. If it's a business reasons, okay, uh, you know that's the decision. If you can hear the legal sound of things, then you can be more creative about finding a solution. And sometimes people just get a no as a no, and whatever it is, and I think that's something that helped me or helping me a lot when I negotiating or when I do business with other entities and
Yeah.
other people.
That makes sense. So if you get a no, it's like, why is there a no? Where is that no coming from? And is that this no really a no or just an I don't know? And let's
Ex-
figure this out. Let's, dig a little deeper. And I'm sure working with internationally with many different countries, I mean, it's having to navigate different policies, different laws and regulations and cross-border, tariffs and that kind of thing. So as
Exactly.
well, but knowing where to look, understanding like the basis of the law, I'm sure helps tremendously.
Exactly. And as a lawyer, I always tell, other people and entrepreneurs and founders, don't let lawyers run things. Yeah, they're not running the business. You're running the business. They're there, to find a solution. And that's not always the case. And, it's especially when you do international business, and regulation and other, tariffs and laws sounds like something very big. But when you understand that you can find a solution for almost every legal problem, that's very easy to navigate.
Yeah. That's an interesting perspective because I think a lot of times people see it the other way, like it's a bigger deal if it's a legal problem than a business problem.
Yeah.
But from what you're saying, it's often the opposite, and it's easier to navigate like the legal
Ex-
aspects of it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
interesting. So looking back, what lessons from your farming background continue to guide your approach to innovation today?
I think that's the biggest question that helps me to explain other people that coming from the outside into agriculture why or what to do in the right thing. And I think, there is one thing that you almost cannot teach people about agriculture, and that's the mindset of the farmers. And many people think farmers are very primitive or very conservative people, and there is a good reason for that, and that's something that it's very hard to explain. But I think that the good explanation is farmers are always live in fear and uncertainty, and the main reason is we talked about seasonality earlier and weather. Think about weather as the main thing that affecting your business, and think about farming as probably the only business that you start the production process, okay, without knowing what will be the cost of your product, how long, how many products will you produce this cycle, and what will be the price. So everything is vague, and still
Right.
you do that, and you do that every year, every time from the beginning. You need a lot of faith and other, and
Yeah.
maybe other people can describe it as something else, but I think farmers, they're very conservative because of that. So you keep and you
Okay.
stick to what you know, and the fear of change or to change anything in what you're doing is always there, because everything is changing around you, and you stick to what you're familiar with. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I think my approach with AgTech innovation, or any technology that you're developing from the very beginning of thinking, all right, I have a technology, I want to bring it into agriculture, and through the process of product market fit, and then the sales process with farmers, is instead of trying to saving cost or reducing cost or increasing the yield or profits, that the usual sales pitch for most of the technologies. Instead of talking about these things, talk about reducing risk. If you're coming to a farmer and say, I'm going to reduce the risk, and I understand your risk or the risks that you're taking, that's a whole different thing. That's the language that they can understand.
Right. Yeah. And I guess that would instill confidence and trust, like more immediately, them knowing that you understand their world and understand how seasonality is a major component of their business cycle and the
Yeah.
implications of, a drought or, a pestilence, something that happens that's completely out of their control, where from one season to the next, they don't know what their yield is going to be,
Yeah.
right? And they're, yeah,
It's
that
crazy when
that
you
is
when you
wild.
look at the numbers. When you look at the numbers, and I have to give you an example. I have a vineyard. I'm producing wine grapes and producing wine. So it's a small factory, all right? It's a business, all right? For me, it's a hobby, but think about in large scale. Differences of 20, 30% in the production, it's something that's totally in the acceptable. So it's crazy. You're aiming to produce 100 bottles and you're producing 70. For any other business, it's a killer. And in
Yeah.
agriculture, that's life. It can
Wow.
be 70, it can be 100, it can be 120, and that's fine. We have clients that are, they think about plants or trees as machines, production facilities, and you have one area in the field that producing 100, whatever it is, and the other areas are producing 30% of that. When you come to think what's going on, and you understand that farmers are just accepting that as part of their life, then you understand the potential of different technologies and data in agriculture.
Yeah. So tell me more about that. And for those unfamiliar, how do you describe Lighthouse Ag's role in the agricultural ecosystem?
Yeah. So Lighthouse came to life about 2 years ago, and I think that the main goal is to take technology and farming leaders to the next level by supporting them and challenging them with different technologies. And we started with being a one source to farmers, big farming organizations across the Americas. We are working North America, South America, with big farming organizations. And the main idea was to be one source to provide them all the technologies that they need. The reality right now in the industry is that they can either buy technologies directly from small startup companies across the ocean, or to buy it from their local provider of whatever it is, chemicals or pipes and hoses, which is ridiculous. You don't buy technology from these kind of companies, but that's reality in agriculture. So we decided to be a distribution company for technologies for agriculture. And then we understood that there is one stage before you sell the farmer the technology, and it's helping them to understand what the problem is, what technologies might be relevant to solve this problem or challenge that they have, and then bring the different technologies together. And what we're doing today with the farmers is defining the problems and the challenges that they have, understanding the root cause of things, bringing the different technologies that are relevant for this case. It's not always the best technologies available. It's the right technologies for this use case. Doing the integration between the different technologies, implementation, and then supporting them first to understand how to use the technologies, what to do with the data and the information, and second, providing a technical support for all the technologies as one source. We have local employees, local teams always around the clients. So in every market and every geography that we're working at, we have local teams supporting the clients, boots on the ground. It's not in agriculture, you have to do that. It's not working online or remotely. So it's a combination of bringing the global technologies and expertise and knowledge with local teams. And that's the magic behind Lighthouse.
Okay. Yeah. So you've explained it kind of as a general contractor and a realtor, but it sounds like really you're sourcing technology, mostly too. You're finding a solution to minimize the risks that they're facing and to bring, I guess, tell me a little bit more about what benefits you're bringing the farmers, entrepreneurs, what it means for the entrepreneurs and investors even that you're working with.
So for the farmers, we're actually reducing the risk of adopting new technologies. They have a lot of bad experience with trying to adopt new technologies and do it in the wrong way. So bringing different technologies to work together, creating the right solution for them and supporting them on this process. I think that's the major thing that we're doing for farmers. On the other side, we have the technology companies, and that starts with, if we seek for a new technology, or it's always starting with we identify a problem or a challenge within our clients, and then we are visiting all the events, and we're part of many committees and events around the world, and we're familiar. We're tracking right now over 1,000 startup companies constantly, and we know not just the technologies, we know the people, we know the investors, we know if they have money problems or other issues, because it's not just finding the right technology, but finding the right company to work with. So for them, usually we advise them from the very beginning on the product market fit and how to develop their technology and their product to fit to the problems that we see with the client. So it's all connected. And then
Yeah.
since we do that, and we're working with the good ones actually as their sales department. So they don't need to have salespeople in every state in the U.S. or in Peru, Mexico, Chile, wherever it is. So we are working as their sales support and even marketing departments. And the outcome of that is that we are working also with investors, because we want to help the good entrepreneurs and the good technologies to stay with us. So we help connect between founders and investors. We help investors to define their investment strategy and to find the right technologies and the right companies to invest in. And I think it's all connected because we have this expertise with the farmers. It's very easy for us to say this is gonna work, this isn't gonna work, and I think that's a very unique position in this industry today.
Yeah. And what are some of the biggest challenges farmers face when adopting the new technologies? And how do you at Lighthouse Ag help overcome them?
Yeah. So it's funny because I think that the biggest problem of the industry is overpromising, and that's what farmers sees when you talk about technologies. There is some kind of antagonism because they have experience with technology companies that promising things that they can provide. And I think that there is a cycle when you're developing a new technology in agriculture. Agriculture is a very tough market. Okay, it takes time. It's very slow. It takes seasons to approve technology because of the risk and all the challenges that we talked. And when technology companies get this feedback from the clients and it takes time to penetrate to the market, then they're trying to promise more. And then the over promising is even worse, and then the farmer gets or develop less trust with the industry. Okay, and I think that's the biggest challenge to build trust with farmers. And I think that's something that over promising, overselling, together with the bad support, because you have to have boots on the ground and it's very hard, it's very costly, and I think that's something that Lighthouse is overcoming and creating a solution for, being
Okay.
able to build this trust on
Yeah.
both sides with the technology companies and the farmers. That's the missing point here.
So it's really about establishing and managing expectations, I'm hearing a lot about. And right, it's not overpromising, it's letting them know what they can expect and just holding their hand throughout the process too, so they maintain that commitment to the process and don't want
Sometimes,
to just
yeah,
quit.
yeah. Sometimes I call what we're doing just translation services. Just
Yeah, that makes
you speak
sense.
we
Right.
speak the farmer's language, we speak the technology's language, and you just need to translate.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about your solutions. You've led precision irrigation and other ag tech initiatives in the past. Tell me a little bit more about those solutions and how you see technologies reshaping global agriculture.
Yeah. Well, I think for many crops, technologies like precision irrigation can be a game changer. With global warming and the changes that we're seeing in the world, it's something that you cannot understand how farmers are working without these kind of technologies. But yet you see the adoption rate is very low, and I think again it's about trust. It's about we have very, very good technologies, and I think building trust, understanding the technology, and understanding what to do with the technology. I think that's the kind of things that we need to bring more. And I think the major thing when you see this kind of technologies is what to do with the data, what to do with the information. We are in the AI era, and that's something that everybody talks about how to use AI and big data. But I think these technologies, once we get the farmers to work with them on scale, right? Not just as a pilot or a trial, on scale. Think about precision irrigation, for example. We are talking about, how about the water shortage all around the world, especially in the places where they are using irrigation, and we don't have enough water. We cannot produce enough. We see the differences in the productivity, and we see the variability in the fields. So that's something very basic to use that. Once you overcome that, the differences is not just saving water or not saving water. If a farmer starting to use precision irrigation solution, the right solution for him, he can produce twice. He can save half of the water that he's using. That's average. That's something that, it's reality. So producing twice, saving half of the resources that you have, that's a game changer for this
Yeah.
kind of technology. And I think that's something that for many of our clients, once they see that it's happening, that it's reality, that they can do that, and it's not just something that a startup company is promising them, and they get to use those technologies with someone who's working with them on how to use the technology, how to improve the processes and what they're doing in the field, and reducing the risk, that's a game changer.
Yeah. Yeah, because the benefits are huge, like you mentioned. And the farmers hesitate to adopt technology due to the complexity or risk, like you mentioned. So, what is the key to building trust and providing that value?
First, understand that in agriculture, things takes time, okay? And the reason is that there is no one season similar to the next one or the previous one, as we said before,
There's so many variables, yeah,
Yeah.
every
And
year.
yeah, and I think many companies, technology companies, are trying to provide agricultural proof to their technology. So, for example, if you promise a farmer that you will save 20-30% of the water, not every season you can do that. So even if you did this season, the farmer will always think, okay, but let's see the next season. The usual process of validating materials or process or new plants in agriculture is between 2 to 7 years because of seasonality, because you want to see how it works year after year. And when you think about it, that's the opposite from technology, okay? So my suggestion to technology entrepreneurs is always don't try to prove the agricultural side of things or the effects. Try to prove the technology. So, for example, ask the farmer, if I can show you exactly how the water reacts in the soil or in the plant, will it help you to irrigate in a better way, and then you can save resources and irrigate your plants in a better way? If the answer is yes, so then the proof of the technology is a couple of weeks, couple of months, all right?
Hmm.
You just need to show that you can show him, and you can provide the data. Now he needs someone to help him to do something with this data, and it's a process. And I think that's the basics of building trust in this industry, to be honest, and not to try to overpromise, just to provide whatever you have. And sometimes partial solution, it's enough because they don't have anything. Don't think about the future and what other things you can promise or provide in the future. Try to sell what you have, and sometimes that's just perfect.
Yeah. And can you share an example of a technology or partnership that had a major impact on productivity or sustainability for growers?
Yeah, sure. Many examples, and we at Lighthouse, we are combining different technologies to work together as an holistic solution. So let's stay on irrigation because I think that's a very impactful thing, for every farmer that is irrigating, and also in a global manner of for the humanity. For precision irrigation, you have many components that should be part of the solution. So every company is doing one part of it. Sometimes when each company trying to sell their product to the farmers, they see the frustration and the very low adoption rate. What we're doing, just as one example, we can bring soil moisture sensors from Australia. We can bring telemetry systems from Chile or from Canada. We can bring AI software to analyze the data from Israel and to bring everything together, to integrate everything together and to provide a full solution. And then this kind of solution, where the farmer can implement easily because he doesn't need to change the way he works. He doesn't need to read tons of information or graphs every day and make a decision based on them. So he has everything working for him just because of the combination of the three different technologies. Each
Right.
one in separate is different, but working together create the perfect solution for him. Now the impact, and I'm talking real numbers, if you take the average avocado growers in Latin America, they can save 50% of the water. 50% of the water for an avocado grower usually means I can double my production. I can plant another field similar to what I have just with the water, because water is the resource that limit their growth.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
for us as humanity, if you can have one farm producing twice, double what they have, and from every acre that they're producing or using, they can produce twice, it's amazing.
Yeah. That's a game changer.
And we didn't
Absolutely.
develop anything new, just
Yeah.
the
It's
combination.
just reallocating the resources or just changing the procedure or processes
Yeah.
and yeah, just realizing completely different results. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
amazing. You've said agriculture is on the edge of the next revolution, much like the Neolithic shift 9,000 years ago. What do you see as the defining factors of this new era?
That's a great question. I think, 13 years ago when I started to explore AgTech and I thought about it and I saw the challenges and just like we're talking about the water resources. I think the Neolithic revolution got us as humanity, got us out of the caves, and now we see a different movement, or you know maybe the same, but we see more and more people in the last 50, 60 years moving from the countryside to the cities. That means
Right.
less and less people working for agriculture. And that makes sense, and we see that all around the world. And according to the UN, 20 years from now, we need to produce twice the food with the same land, half the water, half the working hands. So when you think about it, and it's just 20 years from now, and it doesn't matter if it's going to be, the exact numbers, if it's going to be 20 years or 30 years, that's a challenge, all right,
Hmm.
as a humanity. The problem here is that no, that's not really a concern for any farmer, small or big. They don't think about, the long term or the challenges of humanity. And I think that's something that as society we need to think about and to understand. And I think that's a major shift. The way that we're producing our food in the next 20 years will have to change. And that's something that technology will have to be a major part of it because there's no other solution. And I
Right.
think that's a huge revolution. That's food. It's not something nice to have.
Right. No, it's a necessity. It's the bottom of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's like
Exactly.
foundational. We got to
Exactly.
eat. So, as food demand increases and resources shrink, what role will data and AI play in farming?
Well, I totally think that the future of agriculture depends on data. For every farmer to run his own operation and globally. I mean, we have to look at the data, we have to understand the data and to work with data and information and to improve the way that we're doing things. There is no way to get to these numbers, of food that we need to produce without using data in an efficient way. And I think the challenge in agriculture is when you want to use AI, the first thing that you need is to have the data. And the challenge in agriculture that we often don't have the right data. We don't have an accurate data. So having this data accurately is the foundation of using AI. Once we have that, then definitely AI, the right tools of AI, if we use them carefully and we use them in the right way, they will definitely help us to shape agriculture in the right way. We always need to remember when we're using AI in agriculture, what data we are based at. So,
Right.
what are the information that we are trying to analyze? Because usually, if you think about it, most of the data that we have today in agriculture is collected manually in the fields. So if you have 200 people going in the fields and collecting data and information about whatever it is, pest, disease, other problems or challenges that they see, it's all subjective. It's not unified. If you have technology collecting the data in a unified way, then you can run an AI model and analyze the data in an efficient way. And then you can actually improve the way that you're doing things.
Yeah. Well, and that's true. So I think the primary focus is on collecting on how to, well, first identify what data points you need, and then establishing ways of collecting that good data, because AI is only going to be as effective as the data that you feed it. And it's
Exactly.
going to base its models and provide solutions based on the data. So the quality data is the key there.
Yeah,
And you want farmers making decisions based on good data. Getting that good
exactly.
data is the priority. So finally, what advice would you give to ag tech entrepreneurs or investors who want to contribute meaningfully to the future of farming?
That's a very good question. I think that to start with, you have, agriculture is we're talking about agriculture as an industry, but it's a very diverse industry. So it's a whole different thing, agriculture. I'm not talking about cattle and dairy and green crops, but even within, for example, green crops, you have greenhouses, you have open fields, you have trees, you have irrigated fields, you have rain. You need to choose. You need to be very focused on the crops that you're dealing with, that you're trying to help, the farm size or the farming methods that your clients are working with, geographies. We talked about northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere. So you can work in two different geographies to cover and to work all around the year. And usually that's enough. And if you choose one crop, two geographies, and one range of size of farms, usually it's enough to start with, for the next few years. And that will help you to create value. And that's the second thing, create value. Try to understand your clients, build trust with them, create immediate value that they can see, not value that you can imagine, value that your client can say, yes, this is a value for us. And I think if they can appreciate immediately the value that you're creating for them, that's the key for scale. And that's how you build trust. And then you can take it from there and scale it to other crops, other geographies, other types of clients. And I think that's the only advice. It's a big
Yeah,
one, but it's
right, right. No, but you bring up a good point. I hadn't thought of that before. So a lot of producers, they have farms in both the northern and southern hemisphere in order
yeah,
to be,
yeah.
producing year round.
Yeah, we have clients that have operations in California and Peru. So
Okay.
that way they can provide whatever avocado, blueberries, or whatever crops they have to Walmart every month of the year.
Okay.
And if you get to work with one like this, so you have bigger operation, one client, the same methods, the same process, the same people, the same trust. Once you build it with the people,
Yeah.
yeah, you need to go to the fields too, but once you get to do that, you have something big. And
Right.
one thing about that is I think that because of the pace of the industry and things takes time, people are trying to rush and they have trials with one client and then they run to the next one instead of focusing on this this specific client, try to support him, try to you know exploit within the client And then you have many small or potentially big, but in reality very small clients, instead of focusing on a small amount of clients, but big clients, and investing in them and trying to have them scale with you. And I think that's something that we as an industry should change.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Tal, thank you for sharing your story and insights with us today, your journey from a farmer to global AgTech leader and everything in between.
Sure.
That shows your experience and innovation and vision can transform an entire industry. So before we wrap up, how can listeners get in touch with you to learn more about Lighthouse Ag?
First of all, thanks for having me, and I enjoyed our conversation very much. People can reach out through our website or directly to me on LinkedIn. We're getting in touch with everyone that is interested in the industry, whether they're from the farming industry, technology, and any other. We're happy to have any conversation around that. Thank you very much, Leanne.
Great. And what is your Lighthouse website?
Lighthouse.ag. Ag
Okay.
is agriculture.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Lighthouse.ag. Thank you.
Yeah.
And to our audience, thank you for joining us on Industry Ignited. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to follow, subscribe, and share this podcast so you don't miss future episodes. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and keep igniting industry.